Pluto is probably the most mysterious of the 9 bodies that revolve around the Sun. The mystery surrounding Pluto presented misinformation in elementary education about one of the other 8 worlds where aliens probably existed far away in the universe. Much of that pile of junk information has been debunked, and the much maligned Pluto didn't exactly vanish into the thinnest of air. But what happened to Pluto? And since its rediscovery, what have scientists discovered? Pluto is still currently not considered a part of our solar system, but is now categorized as one of 5 dwarf planets in our solar system. They are primarily spherical and, without consideration for size, could very well get the planetary bodies in our solar system numbering up to 13. But the 5 dwarf planets make up what is known as the Kuiper Belt. Pluto is not called the icy planet for any reason other than the fact that it's made up of methane, frozen nitrogen, and an unhealthy amount of carbon monoxide ice. Much like some parts of the Earth, the smaller planet has its own polar caps accumulated due to the frozen nitrogen and methane. However, it still retains its famous moons, Charon, Hydra, Kerberos, Styx, and Nix, of which the biggest is Charon. The peculiar positioning of the moons means they always face each other. These were pre-disappearance information widely known about the dwarf planet. Still, scientists have made more progress in the last 16 years with relatively new information about the nature of the Plutonian ball. NASA's first significant observation of Pluto since its demotion took place in 2006 to 2007 happened when NASA's New Horizons spacecraft was launched towards the far reaches of Jupiter. However, the spacecraft's primary mission had nothing to do with Pluto. It was sent to test the gravity boost and make a few more scientific observations. That same spacecraft maintained a routine flyby reconnaissance of the dwarf planet and its moons 8 years later, on the 15th of July 2015. It seemed like checking out Pluto was merely one of the spacecraft's side missions on its way to discovering other icy planets that existed a billion miles further from Neptune to orbit. The drive-by wasn't without some results as we gained a clear view of what Pluto now looks like. We saw much beyond its blue tint and a distinct layer of haze, a stern reminder that it's the coldest planet out there and can never entertain human life. Before the expedition, we knew too little about it, not even its size or how it was on the inside. The New Horizons probe helped scientists calculate the exact diameter of the planet, 1,476.8 miles, which when converted is just about 2,376.6 kilometers. Weighing it up against the Earth, it is but 1/5 the entire size of the Earth and not anywhere near the size of our Moon. And for the first time, we actually got to know what some of Pluto's surface features look like. Pluto has ice-capped mountain ranges that stand tall at about 11,000 feet. That's just as tall as the Rocky Mountains on Earth. There arose a dispute about the veracity of the perceived mountainous features. Scientists argued that much of Pluto's surface is covered by nitrogen, ice, and methane, and that they do not think that the ice can support an enormous peak. However, it cannot be discredited that actual mountains were seen. This meant the mountains might be formed on a much stronger foundation known as water ice. A nice theory, but just how deep do these layers of water ice have to go to hold the mountains? Much of the ice caps are made up of methane ice, but further analysis by scientists has noted some unique traits in how the ice tends to reflect light on the surface of Pluto. It also seemed to resemble some of Earth's features, such as the penitentials formed by erosion across the surface of the mountain terrain. The clear difference is that these terrains seem larger than Earth at 1,650 feet in height compared to Earth's, which is only about a few meters in size. Pluto has its own series of amazing features that remain yet unexplored. A prime example is the Tombau Regio, the unofficial name given to the heart-shaped region observed on the surface of Pluto. A part of its landform is likened to an ice cream cone shape but is strictly covered by carbon monoxide ice. It's now iconically identified as the heart of Pluto. Right in the middle of the heart-shaped crater is another smooth region named Sputnik Planum by the probe's team, a name it now shares with Earth's first artificial satellite. Meteorite impacts are known causes of craters in most planetary bodies, but the Sputnik Planum doesn't have such a deformation. According to the geological timescale, scientists deduced that it is a relatively young region and could be about 100 million years old. There are suggestions that it might be yet to attain its permanent shape, as geological processes can continually change it. Much like the kind of streaks you can often see in Earth's arid region, the scientists observed a series of dark streaks that appear to be a few miles long and going in the same direction on the surface of Pluto's icy plains. What could have caused this? Could it be the not-so-friendly winds that frequently blow across the planet's surface? Further research using NASA's Hubble telescope led to the idea that the planet's surface crust could be composed of complex organic molecules. The telescope also identifies that the planet appears redder than it used to be due to its seasonal changes. Concerning some of its natural landforms, it is possible that the planet used to have a subsurface ocean, or maybe it still does. And when we think of that, it could mean that everything we know and think of the planet could be entirely debunked, especially considering its potential to host human life. Pluto has always been easily disorientated due to its ice population, concentrated in a region like the Sputnik Planum, where the ice is about 10 kilometers thick and goes as far as 6 miles. This is one of the reasons why they considered the existence of a subsurface ocean amidst other less likely scenarios. If the ocean was always moving and freezing in place, it could often displace the positioning of the planet. A few of its orbital characteristics point to the fact that its orbital range is estimated to be about 49 times further from the Sun than Earth is. Its orbit is not exactly circular either, and thus could mean that its distance from the Sun varies depending on its position. It's accepted that at some point in its revolution, it tends to be closer to the Sun than Neptune for about 20 years. And according to Earth's timing, the planet takes about 248 years to orbit the Sun. It spends 228 more years further away than its closest companion, Neptune. It was during one of such further drifts that it got demoted from its rank as the 9th observable planet in our solar system. If it did ever get close enough to the Sun, much of the surface ice would eventually thaw, and its atmospheric layers would be at their thinnest, lacking much of its carbon monoxide ice, but mostly retaining its nitrogen and a little bit of methane. At that point, scientists might consider Pluto to be in its most habitable form. Although we have no idea what to do about its low gravity, which is about 1/20th of the Earth's. Hence, its atmosphere appears much denser and higher than Earth's, and the further it strays away from the Sun, the denser it becomes as the atmosphere freezes until it phases out of view. When considered at its thinnest, scientists have surmised that it restricts the flow of fluids. One proof of this is provided by the New Horizons in an image of a frozen lake in the Tombau Regio. They also saw what looked like water channels. We join them in thinking about the possibility of the planet having an atmosphere 40 times denser than the red planet, talking about Mars, of course. There were also observations of certain cloud forms in the atmosphere. The clouds were formed at low altitude with technically the same sizes, but the major components of these clouds are thought to include acetylene, ethane, and hydrogen cyanide. Did you also know that the dwarf planet spins back from east to west, which opposes everything that makes up the characteristics of the major planets in our solar system? There's a lot of information waiting to be discovered about the planet. NASA's New Horizons mission is the only mission dedicated to observing Pluto, its moons, and every other world that may exist beyond it in the Kuiper Belt. Not knowing much about the planet means we don't know if the probe will survive the harsh environment that awaits it beyond Pluto's orbit. The fact it already has 5 moons as satellites has not done much justice to easing fears that the spacecraft could collide with debris or undiscovered moons and eventually be crushed under their weight. For now, we expect it to show us more up-close images of Pluto as we anticipate a better understanding of what thrives on Pluto. Let us know what you think about these discoveries on Pluto in the comments section below.